Welcome, everyone. On behalf of the entire congregation, I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Shenandoah Valley. I am Alice Lees, your worship associate for today's service. We gather together with our doubts as well as our convictions, with our fears and our hopes, with our failures and our aspirations, with our sorrows and our joys. Whether you are joining us today for the first time or you've been a member or friend for many years, we are glad you are here. Whatever faiths you have known, if any, whatever your background, whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived here, you are welcome.
Good morning. I'm Bruce White, Chair of the Social Action and Justice Committee, and we have two speakers this morning, the husband and wife team of Joe Gaines and T. Carter, who will present our message in observance of Indigenous Peoples Day, our alternative to the traditional Columbus Day. Joe Gaines is a member of the Choctaw Nation, a traditional Indigenous drummer and a singer, an educator, and an activist for social justice and human rights. Joe holds a bachelor's degree in liberal studies with a concentration in Indigenous and Native American studies and a minor in business from Southeastern Oklahoma State University in Durant, Oklahoma. In 1830, Joe's Choctaw ancestors walked the Trail of Tears. The United States government force-marched them from their native homelands in Mississippi, took away their land, their crops, their livestock, their homes, and force-marched them to southeastern Oklahoma. Many people died along the way and were left on the cold ground on which they perished, as the military did not allow time to bury the dead. Joe is a descendant of his strongest ancestors. T. Carter is a national award-winning quilter, accomplished fiber artist, author, historian, researcher, and activist with expertise in the areas of social justice and Native American and Indigenous history. Growing up in the southern part of Minnesota, T. became interested in Native American cultures and history, particularly that of the Dakota, Lakota, and Nakota peoples, whom we know as the Sioux Nation. She holds a master's degree in American history from George Mason University and a bachelor's degree in speech communications and art from the Minnesota State University at Mankato. Joe and T live near Washington, D.C., and together own and operate a business, History Outside the Box. Through that agency, T offers lectures and trunk shows and workshops centering on quilts revealing history from many perspectives, including those of women, ordinary people, people of color, and others whose voices have yet to be heard and whose stories are yet untold. Joe complements T's presentations with his traditional singing and drumming and his perspectives on Native American experience, both past and present. T serves as president of the Indigenous Nations Alumni Alliance at George Mason University. She's also a former co-president of the Mount Vernon chapter of Quilters Unlimited. We are pleased to say that T and Joe have chosen this morning to donate their honorarium for their presentation to the Morning Star Institute, a charity in Washington, D.C., working to promote the interests of Native Americans. We are fortunate indeed to have T and Joe here to present our message in observance of Indigenous Peoples Day.
Aleto, that's hello in Choctaw. My name is Joe Gaines and I'm a Choctaw from southeast Oklahoma. And I want to sing you a prayer song today. It's a Pawnee prayer song, but I want to introduce you to a friend of mine. our drum, he's going to help us with this. And with most things spiritual, we offer sage. And what sage does, it invites the good spirits and it repels the bad spirits, loosely put. So in order to purify the drum, I have to first purify myself first. So this, we just kind of get this smoke on us. And we want to come today in a good way to this drum. We want to purify him. Invite the good spirits here. He likes it. He likes this. This is what he's made for. This drum is buffalo hide over a cottonwood frame. And then I'm going to sage this tobacco off, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer tobacco to our friend. Remember, it's kind of when you go to someone's house and you step to the door and you say hi, but when you come with something, it adds a little more sincerity to it. So I'm going to offer something to our drum, all it is just a pinch of tobacco, and I'm just going to say a quick little prayer under my breath and make that offering. I ask the spirit of the drum to be here with us today. It's our friend. Now it's your friend. You have a friend in a drum, and a drum has a friend in you now too as well. So great. We're ready to sing this Pawnee prayer song, and I want you to close your eyes and I want you to see yourself. Heartbeat of the nation, with the heartbeat of the people with this drum. I want to see yourself in the world, and I want you to see yourself in the universe. I'll make it quick too, because it's kind of long. Remember, it says we pray. Oh, hey, ah, way, hi, way, hi, oh, hey, hi, oh, hey, hi, way, hi, way, hi, oh, hey, hi, oh, hey, hi, way, hi, way, hi, I'll offer a prayer. I want to pray in my language. And I want you to pray with me too, because you're participating in this as well. This is not just observation. It's a participatory spirituality. It's a participatory moment. So I want you to pray with me, just like you prayed with me during that song. Our song is our prayer, and our prayer is our song. Say it in my language, hello, Creator. I want you to see us here today. We are your children, and we come to you with love. Shalom b'sho holitopama. Ishmi yok polacha. Atake baya shapia. Ishmi yok polacha. Ashtale, ashtale. I want to thank Bruce and Alice for helping to make this moment happen, and taking the time and effort to help me with this and to bring this forth. I want to thank the congregation, Tenkashla. I want to thank the congregation of this church for observing Indigenous Peoples Day and doing something about it. Going that extra part, that extra step to change the world. Change a better world for them, for our children, and for society. How, Matakwayas.
Hihani washte. That is good morning in the Lakota language. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to start out by reading from Singing the Living Tradition, number 518. Grandfather, look at our brokenness. We know that in all creation, Only the human family has strayed from the sacred way. We know we are the ones who are divided, and we are the ones who must come back together to walk the sacred way. Grandfather, Sacred One, teach us love, compassion, and honor, that we may heal the earth and heal each other. These are the words of the Anishinaabe people. This is the name that they prefer to be called. However, they are also known as the Ojibwa and Chippewa.
Let us now prepare to enter our time of worship together. And as Otsko lights the chalice, let us all say together aloud from our homes the words for lighting our virtual chalices. In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, to share. And I invite you to join me as we say our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help our neighbor. To these ends we covenant one with another. Please join me in a moment of silence to hold in our hearts all the people of the world affected by the pandemic and racial injustice who are struggling, suffering, and grieving. Blessed be.
We will be reading from Singing the Living Tradition, number 614, The Sacred Hoop.
Then I was standing on the highest mountain of them all, and round beneath me was the whole hoop of the world.
And while I stood there, I saw more than I could tell, and I understood more than I saw. For I was seeing in the sacred manner the shape of all things of the Spirit, and the shapes as they must live together like one being.
And I saw that the sacred hoop of my people was one of many hoops that make one circle, wide as daylight and starlight.
And in the center grew one mighty flowering tree to shelter all children of one mother and one father. And I saw that it was holy. These are the words of Black Elk, Oglala Lakota.
How Matakwe awesome. Halito. That's hello in Choctaw. My name is Joe Gaines and I'm a Choctaw from southeast Oklahoma. I would like to thank Bruce and Alice for their time and effort to facilitate this service on Native American history and justice. I am equally thankful to the Unitarian Universalist Church for inviting my wife and I to discuss with you the changing of Christopher Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. When I read the 7 principles of the church, I was amazed how they parallel the indigenous culture and spirituality. One great similarity is neither of us differentiate culture and spirituality. The definitions by themselves are different, yes, but we use them almost interchangeably because they both are constantly on our shoulders in our daily life. We walk with them. They're part of our process. Also, neither of us use the word religion. We both prefer to use spirituality. We both realize the word religion suggests a structured dogma in which man intercedes between the individual and God, or the higher being. Spirituality, on the other hand, is more individual, communicates with the higher being, with him, with it, with her. When we praise God's creations, we praise God. I enjoy Aldous Huxley stating, I equate a walk in the forest to going to church. I equate a walk in the forest to going to church. Thus we find that God is not confined to a church building. Indeed, the seventh principle states we are part of an interdependent web of existence. The Lakota have a saying that is close to that as well, and is also in every prayer. Metakwe oasin. Metakwe oasin. It means for all of our relations. We are all related is what it literally translates to. We are all related. Metakwe oasin. We are not only related to other humans, but also to other animals as well. Further, we can expand that spirituality to be related to all of creation. That's plants, water, earth. And eventually, we'll expand our relationship to the universe. Wow. Wow. How cool is that to be related to the universe? You, I, all of us are related to the universe. Wow. Everything is made up of atoms. As you know, atoms are the basic form of matter, and it's in everything from the universe, from the farthest reaches of the universe to the grain of sand in your backyard. The oxygen I inhale is the same oxygen you inhale, or more even chemically correct, what I exhale, you inhale. In that way, we are related. And once again, not just as humans, because creation, we're part of creation, not just the humans are. We're included in with animals, with plants, with earth. The seventh principle, we find out, is definitely correct. It's factual. Further, and probably even more importantly, the seventh principle is a living and involving principle. It's participatory. It almost has a life of its own because it's changing and evolving as time goes, as we grow. Thus, we are related to the principle itself. And the principle is related to us. We are all related. Metakwe oasin. To discuss about Columbus, we're going to have to take a journey to the past. To Hispaniola, present day Dominican Republic, and the landing place of Christopher Columbus on October 12th, 1492. Our time there will be short because the inhumane atrocities committed by Columbus is irrefutable, as stated by the Catholic priest Bartholomew de las Casas. I quote, there were 60,000 people living in this island from 1492 to 1508. Over 3 million people from other islands had perished from slavery. Some even killed themselves because they wouldn't be part of slavery. Even in the book, even in Howard Zinn, he states that mothers would often kill their own child so they would not be subjected to slavery. Gosh. And that's a Catholic priest saying that. So, further, depending on what you read, 8 to 15 million people, indigenous people, were murdered during Columbus's Caribbean Sea lifetime. All the time that he was in the Caribbean Sea, 8 to 15 million people were murdered. Golly. Genocide, whole tribes wiped out through slavery, religious dominion, subjugation, all of that in the name of man's greed. Columbus didn't do it alone, though. He had help and permission from Pope Alexander VI Alexander VI wrote the Papal Bull Inter Ciatera, in which it states, I quote, "The Papal Bull stated that any land not inhabited by Christians was available to be discovered, claimed, and exploited by Christian rulers, and declared that the Catholic faith and the Christian religion be exalted and be everywhere increased and spread, that the health of souls be cared for, and that barbarous nations be overthrown and brought to the faith itself." So with the Bible in one hand and a sword in the other, Manifest Destiny began a sweep across the Western Hemisphere, leaving death in its wake. Given permission by Pope Alexander. It has not stopped yet either, as the Southern playwright William Faulkner adroitly put it. The past isn't the past. It isn't over. Generally, Catholics don't commit sins unless given impunity. Otherwise, they are sinners and subject to burn in hell. To harm other humans is a violation of their 10 Commandments. Thus, all non-Christians are heathens and therefore non-human. They're not human. It is emotionally and religiously easy to kill a non-human, much like you would swat a mosquito. Non-humans do not count as a person, and thus bears no sin against them when they're trying to get into heaven. They had to subjugate humans, relegate them rather, to non-humans to convince themselves that they were doing the work of God, or from Alexandria's Papal Bull. As a side note, I'll say this real quick. Humans were not declared a person under legal definition until 1876. And had to go to court to do that. Up to that date, what were we considered? What were natives considered? We were considered chattel, which by definition is like a movable property, like a cow. In Standing Bear versus Crook in the District Court of Nebraska, the court ruled natives to be a person. Whew, boy, the things we got to do just to prove we're a person. Still, we were not treated any different by the government or its citizenry. It was still okay to murder, rape, steal, and commit child abuse to natives and not go to hell, even after we're declared a person. And largely is still today, in 2021. Back to Columbus. Remember, he was Italian, working in the service of the Queen of Spain. He went into debt and borrowed money for Queen Isabella to give him ships and a crew. Remember the 3 ships? He had to bring her back something of value and wealth when he got there. So they seen gold and they enslaved people to mine it. Columbus made 4 voyages, and on his 3rd voyage, it's probably around 1500, he and his brother were arrested for crimes against humanity and taken back to Spain in shackles. Finally, to stand trial before Queen Isabella. But as rulers go, the Queen exonerated him for his service to her and gave him more ships to return to the Caribbean. Columbus returned on his 4th voyage, returned back to Spain with nothing to offer to the crown that he hadn't already offered. So when he gets back to Spain, he was released from crown service. It is here that Columbus passed into obscurity at the age of 57. And he died a relative pauper for all the things he did. So, does the United States celebrate a proven murderer? Someone charged with crimes against humanity, and they're irrefutable. The Catholic Church itself wrote about them. That's just one account, too. There's a bunch that we could spend all day on it. A murder that started the America's Holocaust of indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere. His systematic genocide was far worse than Hitler could ever think of. Worse than Hitler? Yep, worse than Hitler. I know a lot of Italians look up to Columbus because he was Italian and sing his praise and resist changing his name. It is here that the second principle of justice and compassion are tested. Not only for us, but also for the opposition as well. What does oppression do to the oppressed? What does oppression do to the ruling class? It's not a native issue. I speak about it because I know about natives. It's not just about a native issue. The seventh principle says it's a humanitarian issue. It deals with all of us. So how well did humanitarianism move from Columbus to the United States, which is closer and more personal to us because we are American citizens? In 1787, the United States of America was formed under the banner of peace, liberty, and justice for all. We are all familiar with that phrase. These very words were deliberately inserted into the Constitution by the United States of America by its founders, much like they were in the sixth principle. However, it changes here. It is the churches like yours and the people like you that make these words meaningful in our daily life. Because that's where it counts in our daily life, our daily experiences. These words in this purest form are not bylines. They're not catchphrases. But words that we insert into our moral fiber. Our ideology, they're ingrained with us. Our daily life and how we want to be treated and how we are going to treat other people. Not how we should treat them, how we are going to. The United States, however, is not so pure of its insertion, certainly not its implementation of these words. In fact, each single word by itself is contradictory to the Constitution, much less put them all together. Thus we find the United States of America was born out of contradiction. Still, a few founders tried, especially put the verbiage inside its governing document because they knew the weaknesses of man and the propensity to greed and self-interest. After all, they did come from Europe, where subjugation and monarchy ruled. They knew to even try to get away from religious and social oppression, they had to find a different social structure on which to pattern their newly forming republic. Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, among some others, found such a social structure in the indigenous Iroquois Confederacy. This confederacy was made up of 5 separate, distinctive indigenous nations in and around New York and the Great Lakes area. Franklin recognized the unique autonomy of each separate tribe, yet together they formed a unity and an expanded social web that benefited them all, both from within their borders in commerce and trade and from without their borders in defense. Franklin spent a month with the tribes and visited periodically, taking other framers with him as his needs demanded. In that we learned the value of democratic process from other cultures and may grow from its diversity. I reminded you that this confederacy and similar indigenous nations' social structure would be labeled as savage and heathen in the Catholics' doctrine of discovery. I'm very thankful for this church for including such wonderful wording in its 5th principle. and once again establishing our democratic similarities and similarities in a social structure that has equality and justice and freedom for all. Yakoke, Yakoke, is thank you in Choctaw. How, Metakwe Oasin, for all my relations.
Hello everyone, I'm T. Carter from History Outside the Box, and this quilt is Dakota 38. I'd like to start out by wishing everyone a very happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Now on Indigenous Peoples Day, it's wonderful to celebrate culture and rich heritage, but it's also important, as a matter of fact, it is vital that you address the history, the hard history, including horrific hidden history like the Dakota 38. I made this quilt to honor and remember and for reconciliation of what happened to the Dakota men. They were the largest mass execution in the United States of America at the hand of Abraham Lincoln. And in a nutshell, these men were killed because their people were starving and a war broke out. Now this quilt was made in 2012. It was the 150th anniversary of the hanging of the 38 Dakota as a part of the reconciliation process. Forgive everyone, everything was a phrase used by Vernell Wabasha, Dakota. Forgive everyone, everything. It was what she thought had to be done in order to make reconciliation possible. But first, before reconciliation can happen, there has to be an education. People need to know this happened. And once they know what happened, they have to acknowledge it and admit. And then the forgiveness and the healing of the history and the reconciliation can take place. A lot has happened since 1862 when this horrific event occurred, and reconciliation is in process, but it's still a greatly hidden history. Now today we're not going to have time to tell you everything about this event, but if you would like more information, please go to www.historyoutsideTheBox.net. Thank you. I will be reading from Singing the Living Tradition, number 682. Beauty is before me, and beauty is behind me. Above me and below me hovers the beautiful. I am surrounded by it, and I am immersed in it. In my youth, I am aware of it, and in old age, I shall walk quietly the beautiful trail. In beauty, it is begun, and in beauty, it is ended. These are the words of the Navajo Nation.
As we extinguish this flame, let us say together from our homes the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth. the warmth of our community with a fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again.
The purpose of the church is to encourage all who gather to grow more generous in spirit and in action. We hope you will consider making an offering after today's service through our webpage, uushenandoah.org. This will allow us to exercise that generosity of spirit through this self-supporting church and its many ministries, which continue while we are still not able to be physically together. And since this is the second Sunday of the month, it is fitting to remind you that it is the Share the Plate Sunday, and the Share the Plate beneficiary for this month, in keeping with today's service theme, is the Native American Heritage Association, NAHA. It's a nonprofit organization whose administrative headquarters is nearby in Front Royal. And in addition to Share the Plate, we are, despite the restrictions imposed by COVID and the Delta variant, reinstituting our Narthex collection program. Even though we are not meeting at the church in large numbers, you are encouraged to come by the church whenever you can during normal business hours, Monday through Friday from 10 to 2, and leave your in-kind donations of clothing for the reservation residents in South Dakota whom Native American Heritage Association serves. I invite your attention now to a brief message from Aaron Hibbs, Treasurer and Secretary of the office here in Front Royal, to tell us more about NAHA and its mission.
Hi, my name is Erin Hibbs, and I'm the treasurer for NAHA, Native American Heritage Association. I have been a part of this great nonprofit for 13 years. We started back in 1993, literally putting boxes of food in the back of a station wagon and driving them to the reservations. And here we are in 2021, and we are delivering over $70 million of food, clothing, mattresses, basic like necessities, anything you or I would use on a daily basis to help them, survive. So I love what I do, especially knowing the situation out on the reservations. It is awful. Housing conditions are the worst, no insulation in the houses, plyboards up on the windows, no proper heating system. When in the wintertime, the temperatures are below zero with wind chills at negative, it could be negative 50 degrees sometimes. It's an awful situation. They've got one small grocery store for our community that they run out by the end of the month. And that's where, we come in. We've got 3 tractor trailers that are on the road daily, taking products and food to the communities. And it's just so important that we provide them and are able to help them survive and not go hungry and not freeze to death, and make sure their children have proper clothing, to go to school in. And it's just, we can't fix the situation, but we are going to make sure that they survive on a daily basis. I cannot thank you guys enough for picking us to donate to. It's so important, and we just want to make sure everybody knows and to get it out there how awful the situation is in South Dakota on the reservations. It's like a third world country out there. It's poverty levels are ridiculous, and it's just, we really, really appreciate everything that you guys are doing for us. We couldn't do it without the donors. And we're going to keep on until we can't. So Again, thank you very much, and you guys have a good day.
Thank you, Aaron. For further information about NAHA, please see their website, www.naha-inc.org. And for further ideas about how we can advance the observance of Indigenous Peoples Day, I also invite you to go to the UUA website and search Indigenous People. There you will find a list of 10 things we all can do. I would be remiss if I did not remind you that the Social Action and Justice Committee welcomes you to join us in whatever way is appropriate for you as we strive to fulfill our 7 UU principles by working for greater justice, equity, and compassion in our local community, the broader communities of our Commonwealth and nation, and indeed throughout the world. And finally, we invite you to join our church community at noon today for our post-service gathering on Zoom for sharing joys and concerns, followed by our coffee hour conversations in smaller breakout groups. The Zoom link is found in your UUCSV email. Thank you again for joining us for this Indigenous Peoples Day observance.
NAHA stands for Native American Heritage Association. NAHA's mission is to provide at least subsistence level support for the 45,000 Native Americans living on reservations in South Dakota and Wyoming.
NAHA is not just a business, it's very personal. We're helping people survive.
NAHA started in 1993. David Myers was the founder, and he began this organization by loading up his station wagon every weekend and taking household goods out to the Native Americans on the reservations in his spare time. David saw that with all of the government assistance and every other form of assistance that might be out here, the area was so remote and there were so few opportunities that the Native Americans had trouble making it through the month. Out of that grew now $50 million worth of aid a year. NAHA has 4 distinct types of programs. In some cases, it's direct cash aid. Another segment is NAHA does accept gently used and new clothes. Third one would be our food distribution program. We partner with several food banks and other types of organizations around the country to provide food. And gifts in kind. We work with a lot of corporate partners all over the country to provide the basic household needs, toilet paper, diapers for the kids, cleaning supplies, that kind of thing.
We're in our warehouse in Black Hawk, South Dakota. This is where our products come in, things you use every day and you take for granted, and they don't have them. We get them split up put in our tractor trailers, and then trucks are on the road.
We service Pine Ridge, Rosebud, Crow Creek, Lower Brule, and Cheyenne River. And in Wyoming, we service the Wind River Reservation, which includes the Northern Arapaho and Eastern Shoshone.
We are on our way to the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation.
We're dealing with people that live out on a remote location, and I mean remote location. They're on a Native American reservation. They were moved there by the government, and those lands where they're moved to are not suitable for farming or ranching. They're barren land.
The isolation of these reservations creates the problem. There are no jobs, and I don't know how to get jobs out there.
We don't have a lot of opportunity for jobs on the reservation. They're very, very hard to come by.
We have a Family Dollar, a grocery store, and a couple gas stations, and a couple hardware stores. And that's it for employment, you know, for the people around here.
It's very difficult for Native Americans to get a job because they can't get to the jobs that are available.
They don't have transportation. If they have transportation, they don't have gas. So if I can provide them with my product, then they're able to spend their money on fuel or food or things that they do require.
The reservations out there are in such poverty, and the housing, they're not very big houses, and sometimes you see up to 20 people living in the house.
A lot of these people are sleeping on the floor, on a couch, in a chair.
In fact, I've got a daughter who she sleeps on the floor because she don't have a bed in her room.
I dare say that if these Native Americans had been given a reservation in what is now Times Square, the problem would be solved.
People want to know, is an AHA truck coming?
There is excitement when there's a truck coming because you never know what's going to be on it.
It's like Christmas.
When the shipment comes, it takes some time because we have to separate everything.
We sort everything. Try to put toothpaste in one, baby supplies.
Mops and brooms in one part, Pampers in one part, personal hygiene and hair products in another to where they can just go ahead and go through.
I was on my last roll of tissue, and I was thinking, how am I gonna make it last? Next day, Mom pulls in. Yay, I get tissue.
We got a box of blankets in, and I'm very excited because that is gonna go to the elderly.
The most exciting things we've gotten are mattresses.
We found backpacks, we found stocking caps.
It's really good when they bring food. Today we got cereal, and boy, the kids are happy to get the cereal.
We're helping out the Boys and Girls Club. We help out the daycare. We're giving to the grade school.
The shipments of NAHA that come in are really helpful.
Everybody needs help in one way or another. We all need help.
There was a time that we looked after one another a little more than we do these days. And somewhere along the line, we've lost a lot of that.
We have built a trust with the folks that we serve because they know we won't forget them.
We want to let our donors know that our stewardship of their dollars is solid, look at our ratings, and allow us to use our leverage to take $1 of your donation. And we can oftentimes leverage that into 7, 8, sometimes even as much as 16 or 20 times what the actual monetary donation was.
Without our donors, NAHA would cease to exist. I can't thank them enough.
NAHA is doing the best they can, and we really appreciate everything they bring.
NAHA really makes a difference.
When my father passed away, there was a moment where, you know, was that the end of NAHA? But you can't step away from 45,000 people.
Thank you, NAHA!
NAHA does make a big difference, and it helps a lot of people.
Thank